What is up, my friends? I hope that all of you are doing well and no doubt probably reading so many albums of the year lists. I feel like every single day I get even more sort of albums that I may not have even heard of. Like there was one Stormkeep that I definitely slept on. A lot of people have been telling me about. But with that in mind, I'm carrying on my album of the year list, Bonanza, let's just say. Oh, and also, just before, as I remember, this came today, which is a copy of Chemist's absolutely awesome album on this nice sort of like white and black vinyl. I'm doing this December vinyl challenge thing on Instagram, and I was just wondering, would you guys, you know, as a sort of like YouTube video or something like that, would you be interested in seeing some of my vinyl collection? You know, I can like go through some of my favorite albums and things like that. I'd love to, you know what you guys think, if that would be cool. And then, you know, I really want to try and do a little bit more kind of different stuff in 2022. Anyway, with that in mind, I'm going to jump straight into part 3 of my albums of the year with Carcass and Torn Arteries. Surgical Steel was incredible. It's hard to believe that it's 8 years since it was released. That now Torn Arteries almost feels like a comeback album from the comeback album. It wasn't as immediate as Surgical Steel, definitely not. But it did kind of showcase that classic Carcass sound that we've kind of come to know and love. But there aren't no surprises here. You know, I think there's a lot of like little progressive influences on this record. Lots of things that I wouldn't have necessarily penned, which, you know, makes it quite interesting, quite different. But the reason it's so high up on this list is because I've just not stopped playing it. That's the pure and simple truth. Like when I kind of really knuckle down, especially to the top 10, I really look at how many times I've played this album and, you know, in that time, how much I've enjoyed it. And Carcass is just one that I've just kept on coming back to. It's just got that sense of replayability. And of course, it's got a Peep Show reference. You know, they've got the best sense of humour, so I had to include it. Next up is Unto Others at number 9. So Unto Others are a band that were formerly known as Idle Hands, and their album Manna was exceptional. Like one of the best debuts I think I've ever heard. But the songs that are on here are absolutely fantastic. You know, the songwriting is airtight. That rhythm section is literally like the tightest rhythm section you could have. There are great lead lines, but most of all, it's that sense of atmosphere, that sort of like swirling 80s smoke that's pretty much throughout this album. I also think they've got the best opening track by a country mile in the form of Heroin. That you know, it reminded me of like early Metallica, to be totally honest. Everything on here is brilliant. The guitar tones, Gabriel's voice, you know, when he does that, whoo! It's so sick. I just love it so much. And again, I've not stopped playing it. I've air guitared more than one time when absolutely drunk as well to this. So that's always a good barometer for how much I've enjoyed it. Really, really fantastic album. If you've not listened to it, give it a go because I think you'll really, really enjoy it. Sitting with this record for quite some time and I absolutely love it. I think it's a perfect elegy to the memory of Sean Malone and Sean Reinert, but also proves that Cynic, right until maybe the end, are a completely unique force. Even though there were 2 new members brought in on drums and bass synthesizer, it still feels like Cynic, and that's the most important thing. You know, I'll be honest, I think Kindly Bent to Free Us didn't disappoint me, but it was just a bit of a curveball. So when I heard Ascension codes, I was like, oh, we're back into like Traced in Air territory. This is exactly what I wanted. And again, I've not stopped playing it. It's kind of a very much a journey of an album as well, but one that I really, really do enjoy taking. I remember when this was announced, I lost my mind. I have been a fan of this band ever since 2008 Board Up the House, and I can't believe that it's been that long since the last Genghis Tron album. It just blew me away. It was an absolutely fantastic record from start to finish. There's more of an emphasis on electronics and atmosphere, but this was the first time Genghis Tron ever had a drummer, which is amazing, and I think they made full use of Nick as well. Like, there are some fantastic sections on this album where, you know, he really does kind of like almost steal the show, and the result, I think, is, you know, a record which is telling of you know, Genghis Tron. They've evolved. They're not going to be the same people who were like screaming that kind of converged style metalcore, but with, you know, like 8-bit electronics in there. It's a lot more mature. It's a lot different. Absolutely phenomenal record. Was in my top 3 for a while, but got relegated because of just how fucking crazy this year has been for releases. So I have been juggling with this album between putting it in my top 5 or my top 10. It's honestly been a nightmare for me, but given the fact that it is an 86-minute album, I have played this so much, like so much. So this album is a record that is dedicated to their dearly departed manager, Nick John. But it also looks at the idea of life, you know, I think, and in terms of acceptance of, you know, the passing of life. But there's just so much going on here. In all 15 tracks, you can find some form of Mastodon that you would love. But what I like the most is it's kind of, it doesn't forget where it's come from. You know, like, there are tracks where that Remission style stomp is going to be really present, but then there are things that they're doing which they've never done before, like Gigantium or the Dagger, for example. Like, there's such different sounds on this record, but it's still quintessentially Mastodon. It's both their most expansive but raw effort to date, I think. Basically their most ambitious album yet. So I hope you guys enjoyed my picks so far. Next week, I'm going to be doing my final 5, but I'm also going to be doing the top albums that I've worked on, and there's one of them which, and I'm sure you can guess which one, is a joint album of the year for me, but I didn't want to put it in because I did technically work on it. I'll also be revealing my non-metal album of the year as well. And yeah, I'd just love to hear what you guys think. Let me know what you think in the comment section underneath me, and I will see you next week for my final video of 2021. Take care, my friends, and I'll see you soon.